So excited to be here. We're so thankful for the opportunity, and we appreciate that very, very much. Have you ever thought about people that are around you? They are watching you all the time. Have you ever thought about that your life that you're living is influencing someone else? It really hit home one day when we were in Jacksonville, and we had a house built down there, and there was some building sand out in front, brand new construction, and my son was there with me, and my wife was in the house doing some stuff, and my son was outside, and he said, "Dad, I just don't know anybody, and I don't have anything to do." And I said, "Well, there's some sand out front. Go get your Tonka trucks. You remember those? The Tonka truck, they're yellow and about that big, made out of metal. And go get them." He had a dump truck and a front end loader and a grader, and we were out front playing with those trucks, and I was sitting in the dirt playing with him. We were having a wonderful time. And I was making the truck noise, truck full of dirt, making the truck noise. I was just bringing back my childhood. And a man across the street, he was sitting on his front porch, and I noticed he stood up and he started looking at me, and I'm thinking, what's wrong with this guy? I mean, I'm doing what I love to do, and I'm bonding with my son. I'm having a good time here. And I just kind of waved at him and made the truck noise a little bit louder. Let him know I'm not scared, I'm not afraid, I'm not ashamed. But then something happened. I turned around and my son had gone back into the house. And I don't know how long he'd been gone. And that really changed the whole situation. So I went in the house and my son was watching television. And I sat down beside him and I explained, when you're going to leave, please let me know. Because I've been out there for quite a while by myself, and the man across the street has determined that I was not exactly as I should be. But people are watching us, and people know what we're interested in. And if you're interested in eternity, if you're interested in spiritual things, people can see that, and they know. The title of our lesson is What Lies Ahead. We all are interested in that. I think it's something that we can all say that we're interested in what's going to happen in the future for us. Can we predict the future? James 4:14 says this. He says we cannot predict our future, and it tells us about why. He says, "Go to now, ye that say today or tomorrow we will go into such a city and continue there a year and buy and sell and get gain, whereas ye know not what shall be on the morrow. For what is your life? It is even a vapor that appeareth for a while that vanisheth away. For ye ought to say, if the Lord will, we shall live and do this or that." 15,333 days ago, I called a pretty girl from the church that I was going to, Lake Forest Church of Christ in Jacksonville, and I called her up and I said, "Hey, would you like to go tomorrow night to a softball game that the church had a team?" And I asked her that, and I didn't know that 15,353 days later that we would have a grandchild 5 years old and we'd be living in Valdosta, Georgia. You know, I just didn't know that. We don't know what the future holds. We don't know what lies ahead. We don't know what's going to happen next week. We don't know what's going to happen next year or 10 years from now. But if the Lord delays His coming, we can predict without a doubt, no question, where we'll be in 100 years. Have you thought about that? In 100 years, you can predict without question, without any kind of reservation whatsoever, where you will be in 100 years. We have a handout, and if you didn't get one, if you want to get one before you leave, this is kind of going to keep us in line with what's going on. I'm going to give some scripture on that handout there. If you would like to write on that, that is your business, and you can do that. But my prayer is this: if you know someone who is not prepared for eternity, if you know someone who has not obeyed the gospel, who is not a member of the Lord's church, if there's any way possible, please share this lesson with them. That's the reason this handout is available. Please look at it. It's very clear. It's not hard to understand. It's very easy, but it's so relevant. We need to understand it. We need to obey it. Right now, we're living in the blessing of time. We're on time's side of eternity. We have time. It's so wonderful. It's a gift of God. The time we have right now is a gift. Maybe that's the reason they call it the present. This is the present time. It's a gift from God, and we have it right now. And we can do anything we can, anything we want to, with time. that we have. And sometimes when time runs out, we can see how critical that can be. Have you ever woke up and realized that the alarm clock didn't go off in the morning and you had to be at work, or you had to be at school, or you had to be someplace at a certain time, and all of a sudden you wake up and it's 15 minutes before you have to be there? Working for the railroad, I had to be on time. That was very important, just like any of your jobs would be. You have to be on time. That train has got to leave at a certain time. So when time runs out, it's panicky time. It's panic. It's time to get upset. But when we have lots of time, we have a feeling of security, don't we? You know, I got up this morning really early, and I would always go over my lesson on Sunday morning, and I left them plenty of time to get here. That way, even if I had a flat tire, I'd be on time. I had a secure feeling about time. And if we get started early enough, time is a good thing, but it can run out. Time relieves pressure. I have a lot of pressure on me whenever I have only a certain amount of time to get something done, and that pressure builds and it makes me where I'm not happy. Time increases our possibilities, the things that we can do. If we have lots of time, we can do it. The scriptures say that 2 Corinthians 6:2 says time that we have now is the day of salvation. We can do something about our salvation right now. Think of the possibilities, what we do today. If you're outside of Christ, what you do today will determine whether you spend eternity in heaven with God or not. You have time now. Time is great. It can give us joy and happiness. I was glad when they said, let's go into the house of the Lord. We see that in Psalms 122 and verse 1. I was glad. Time. We have time to get up this morning. We had time to eat breakfast, time to drive to the building, and time to take the Lord's Supper and pray and sing and give of our means and listen to a lesson from God's Word. It's such a wonderful time. But you know, with time, God gives us time, but He expects something in return. He says, work while it is day, John 9:4. Work while it is day, because the night cometh when no man shall work. Be smart with your time. And that's what we need to do. The blessing of time is something that it can't be overestimated. But as you well know, you live in this world just like others. The attitude of many are not interested in spiritual things. It's a sad thing not to be interested in what's going to happen in 100 years. Where are you going to be in 100 years? That's sad, but so many people are not there in that mindset. Look in your Bibles, if you will, to 2 Timothy chapter 3. 2 Timothy chapter 3, beginning with verse 1. This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come, for men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetousness, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God. We're living in those times. People that we come in contact with, many of them are not interested in where they'll be in 100 years. They're more interested in joy and having fun in this temporary world. That's the attitude of most. Most fail to meet the conditions of salvation. It says in 1 Timothy 4:1, in the latter days, the people shall depart from the faith, from the truth, and they will not meet the conditions of salvation. They will depart from it. Few will worship faithfully. We know people that are sporadic in their attendance to the worship service, and some don't go at all. But we have time. That's the attitude of many, but we have time to make that right. We have time to worship. We have time to do what God tells us to do. And not much interest in the church. Few are serious Bible students. Hosea 4:6 said, my people are destroyed for lack of wisdom. We're destroyed for lack of wisdom. We don't need to be that. You know why? Because we have time to get wise concerning salvation. We have that time. What lies ahead? If you're not a Christian, what should lie ahead even today is to have the blood of Jesus Christ applied to your soul. You have time to do that. Not much interest in the church, even though in our list of priorities, I've retired about almost 3 weeks ago, and I have a list of things that I want to get done and then prioritize in the right order. But Jesus said the number one thing on our list is to seek first the kingdom of God. And we have time to do that. Seek first. Some people are not concerned about eternity. In Matthew 19:22, we see the story of the rich young ruler. And Jesus told him what he needed to do. They were under the Old Testament law. But that wasn't the thing that was getting in his way. It's his riches that he had confidence in. And Jesus said, sell your riches, give to the poor, and follow me. And he went away sorrowful, for he had many riches. So that was more important to him. We wasn't concerned about eternity. He was concerned about that bank account. He was concerned about the things, the temporary things that he had in this world. Have you ever gone to a big park? Maybe the Magic Kingdom, Disney World. And every once in a while there's a great big sign. It's a map. And right in the middle of it, or wherever you are, there's a big yellow arrow that says, you are here. You ever seen those? You are here. And you have to know that. If I'm going to try to get to Space Mountain, which is a big roller coaster there, and I got to know where I'm at. Where am I starting? You are here. Me and you, us, we are in the same situation. We have time to seek God. Hebrews 11:6 that tells us that God rewards those who seek Him. We have time to do that. We have time to work out our salvation. We have time to do that right now. We are in time side of eternity. Philippians 2:12. We are to work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. We are to work that out. We know what to do to become a Christian, but we need to work that out in our lives and make sure we're faithful Christians to God. We need to do that. I can't do it for you. You can't do it for me. Work out your own salvation. And God has blessed us with a time to do that, even today. Time to meet the conditions. John 14:5-6. No man, Jesus said, no man cometh unto the Father but by me. We have to meet the conditions to get into Christ. And we have time to get into Christ by obeying the gospel. We have time to worship faithfully. John 4:24 tells us that, that we are supposed to worship. We should worship to please God in spirit and in truth. Worship God in spirit and in truth. We have time to do that. And this is the only time we're going to have on this side of eternity. We have time to learn God's word. Be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. We're all in the same situation. We have time to make that happen. We have time to seek God's kingdom first. As we've said, we have time to prepare for eternity. Prepare to meet thy God. Amos 4:12. Prepare to meet thy God. You know, we're in a situation here that we are preparing. We're preparing ourselves for judgment. That's what this life's all about. But few see it that way. When I taught engineers up there in Atlanta, I taught engineers, and I said, the whole reason you're here for a 4-week course to pass a test, that's the whole reason you're here. Now, you need to make sure you're focused on that and prepare for that test, because if you don't pass it, you don't have a job. Prepare for it. Oh, there's a lot of things in Atlanta that they could be interested in doing. Some of them are wholesome and some are not. I said, but don't get caught up in the things of Atlanta whenever you're here for one reason. And we need to look at that in our minds. I'm here to get ready for Judgment Day, and there is no other reason. This short time that I'll be on this earth, it's not worth throwing away eternity to have so-called a good time. We need to be preparing for eternity. And we have time to teach the lost. We have time to do that. We know the truth. If we could take this paper and just show somebody, this is what lies ahead. This is what you can expect. That's what God wants us to do. That's what we should be doing. We can teach in some way. We have time. But what happens when time is over with? We talked a lot about time. We talked a lot about what we're going to do, what we can be doing, what we should be doing. But what happens when this time is over with? Physical death. Physical death occurred. We know that it's going to happen. Statistics show that 1 out of 1 people will die. It's going to happen. It's an appointment that we're all going to keep. And we may be surprised when someone passes away if it was unexpected, but we're not surprised that they died. If I told you my great-great-great-great-grandmother was dead, you wouldn't be surprised about that. Because that's the way it goes when we get to a certain age, when we get old enough, whenever we have an accident or a sickness, that's going to happen. And so we're not surprised when that happens, and it's the appointment we're going to keep. And at that point, our soul and our body is going to separate. If someone doesn't know what's going to happen, when they pass away, our soul is going to go where God sends it, and our body will return to the dust. You know that. We need to know that's going to happen, and it's going to happen soon. Compared to eternity, our body back to dust, our soul back to God. And we could be young when that happens. It could be old. There are unborn babies that die. And they're Uncle Charlie's. Who was Uncle Charlie? That's my daddy's uncle, really. I went, he was in Macon, and I was getting ready to get on the train in Macon. I went by his house first on his birthday. He says, hey, I'm 102 years old. I knew he was. So I went over by to see him. I'm 102 years old, and I just got my license renewed for another 5 years, my driver's license. I said, that is incredible. Incredible. And he was good. He was just mowing his grass not too time before that with a push mower at 102. I mean, I was impressed with that. But it could be an Uncle Charlie's age, or it could be an unborn child, as we are so saddened to hear. That happens so often. Or anywhere in between. Most, Matthew 7:14, most will not be ready. Most will not be ready for that. Our next stop will be Hades, the Hadean world. Let's look at Luke 16, where we know where the story of a person that talked about that. Jesus talked about the Hadean world. He talked about going there with one of the thieves on the cross. But let's look at Luke 16 to refresh our memory on this story, because there's some points we need to understand and we need to pick out of this story. There was a certain rich man who was clothed in purple and fine linen and fared sumptuously every day. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at the gate full of sores, and desiring to be fed from the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dog came and licked his sores. And it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by the angels to Abraham's bosom. And the rich man also died and was buried. And in hell he lifted up his eyes, being in torment, and seeing Abraham afar off and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me. Send Lazarus that he may dip his finger in water to cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. And Abraham said, Son, remember that thou in thy lifetime received good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things. But now he's comforted, and thou art tormented. And besides this, between us and you there's a great gulf fixed, so that they which would pass from hence to you cannot, neither can they pass to us, that we would come from thence. And he said, I pray thee therefore, Father, that thou wouldst send him to my father's house, that I have 5 brethren, that he may testify to them, lest they also come to the place of torment. And Abraham said to him, they have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them. And he said, Nay, Father Abraham, but if one of them went from the dead, they will repent. And he said, if they will not hear Moses and the prophets, they will not be persuaded, even if one came from the dead. We see a situation in here, the Hadean world. If we pass from this life and we do not have the blood of Jesus Christ that has cleansed our sins, if we are not members of the Lord's church, the one he says, upon this rock I will build my church, the Hadean world, the bad side of Hadean world, the torment side will be when we open our eyes on the other side of death. We will be able to see according to this story. And it says that there was lots of pain. He said just a drop of water, just a little bit of relief. Just a little bit of relief would make things so much better. Just help me. I've got regret because I have people in my household that I lived with, and I got regret that I didn't obey what I should have obeyed. They lived under the Old Testament law then, but what I should have done in order to have my sins washed away, I didn't do it. And now I have brothers that are headed to the same place. Please, please send Lazarus back to them. And he says they have the Bible, they have the prophets, they have something that they can read to understand what's necessary in order to not come to this place. Heat, tormented, I'm tormented in this flame, no release. He said there can't be a relief, no relief. There's a great gulf that's separating you from getting out of that situation. We don't have to go there. We have time. We have time. What lies ahead? Eternity of sadness and pain or joy? What lies ahead? You can decide that for yourself. Unprepared people will go there. Unfaithful people will go there. Those that are not washed in the blood of Christ will go to this horrible, horrible, horrible place. And we don't like to talk about it. We don't even like to preach about it. But it's something that if you love someone, if you have a neighbor, if you have a relative, show them this lesson. This is one of many that could be taught on this subject. But we don't have to go there. Now let's look at a happier time. Let's look at paradise. Hades, the paradise side. The angels will carry us there. When you die, you meet, apparently, in this situation, an angel took Lazarus and carried him to this wonderful place to meet someone who would make him happy, someone that would let him know things are good. I remember whenever Kim, my wife, had surgery, she had cancer. And it was a very serious cancer that she had to have it removed. And we're sitting in the doctor's office, or actually in the hospital waiting room, when the doctor that did the surgery came in. Finally, it seemed like forever. And I said, how are things? And I said, I got a tape recorder right here in my pocket. I'm going to turn it on. He said, well, thank you for telling me that. But anyway, I turned it on and I said, I want to hear everything you say, because my wife's, I don't want to forget a thing. And he told me about it, and he told me what had happened. And so whenever I got back to my wife's room, and after she started coming to and she could understand what was going on, she said this, are things good? Are things good? I was able to say, yes, things are good. They got it all. She wanted to hear things good. You know, whenever we wake up on the other side of eternity, on the other side of death, we're going to want to know, are things good? This is what Abraham's job is. We'll be comforted by Abraham, and Abraham won't say, thou art well done, thou good and faithful servant. That's what Jesus would say, but Abraham will tell us, he'll let us know, things are good. Don't let anything get between you and letting that happen when you pass from this life. You want to hear Abraham. You want to see that angel. You want to be carried into Abraham's bosom, and you want to hear wonderful things from Abraham. Things are good. You don't have to be afraid. You don't have to hurt anymore if you've had an illness that was very painful. You don't have to have anything but comfort, happiness, and a reunion from the ones that have passed before. And it's for a prepared people. A person that used their time getting ready for eternity and obeyed the gospel and worked out their own salvation. It's all about time. What are we doing with our time? Let's talk about the return of Jesus. Let's talk about that for a minute. Let's think about when Jesus returns. It could be that we might be in the Hadean world, or we could be here if we return before we pass. But only God knows when this is going to occur. And Mark 13:32 tells us that. Not even the angels, not even Jesus himself. But God knows. And we know this is going to be a wonderful time. Every eye will see him. Everybody will be able to see him. There will be no question about that. And he will be seen in the sky. It says in Acts 1 verse 11, he's going to be seen. We're going to be able to look up and see him in the clouds. He won't return all the way to the earth, but we will see him in the clouds. Is that something that we want to happen? A traumatic time for unbelievers. A traumatic time for those who once were faithful and then are not faithful anymore. A traumatic time for them. Oh no, I don't have time. That precious thing that we call time is no longer. I don't have it anymore. It's gone. Oh, I wish I had to use my time to obey the gospel or stay faithful. It's a wonderful sight for the faithful. 2 Timothy 4:8 said that Paul was talking about his reward. He said, not only I will get that reward, but all that love his appearing. You know, if I'm outside of Christ, I'm not going to love his appearing. I'm not going to like that because I know that I didn't spend the time that I needed to spend. I didn't work out my own salvation. And it will be a horrible time, and it can happen at any time. Matthew 24 in verse 44 tells us it can happen at any time. Jesus said, Jesus, who said, the one that's going to be our judge said, be ready. Be ready. The judgment. Think about the judgment for a minute. Everybody's going to be judged. Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse 13 and 14. The whole duty of man, the whole reason that we're here is to fear God and keep his commandments, because we're going to stand before God in judgment. You know, if you don't have faith, and if you don't have a lot of faith, and faith comes by hearing the Word of God. If we don't study our Bible, you know, these truths, these facts that we're talking about today, they're not going to impress you one bit. They're not going to say, you know what, I need to do something about that. But if your faith is strong, you're going to say, yes, I want to be sure. I want to be sure that I am ready. Now is the time to prepare. The scriptures say now is the day of salvation, 2 Corinthians 6:2. Now. Let's use our time wisely. Let's use our time now. We need to be 100% sure. Make your calling and election sure. 2 Peter 1:10. You can be sure. You can know where you're going to be in 100 years. You can know that. If you understand, there may be some babies in here that live longer than that, I don't know. But if you can understand the words that are coming out of my mouth, you understand, you'll be somewhere in 100 years, and it's not going to be on this world. It's not going to be on this earth. And you can know for 100% that it's going to be in a place where God wants you to be comforted and happy, and things will be good. Have we met the conditions of salvation? 2 Timothy 1, 7 through 9 says, the Lord is going to come taking vengeance on them that don't meet the conditions, that know not God and obey not the gospel. Taking vengeance. You know, I don't want people to take vengeance on me. I don't want the bully in the school to take vengeance on me. I don't want my wife to take vengeance on me. But if there's any situation that you don't want to happen, you don't want the creator of this world, your creator, to take vengeance on you because you have not met the conditions. Have we lived faithfully? Revelations 2:10, be thou faithful unto death, and I'll give you a crown of life. The scriptures tell us that. Is God's kingdom first in your life? Seek ye first the kingdom of God. Is it number one? Is it what you live for? Let's talk about heaven. After judgment, after that, and as we are members of the Lord's church and we've lived faithful, not perfect, we can all pack up and go home if it takes perfection. It does not, but it does take faithfulness. Heaven, forever with God, Jesus and the angels, forever and ever and ever. You can say that until it makes you dizzy. We can't even comprehend what forever is, but it's going to be there with God. Constant rejoicing. Constant rejoicing. We never get tired of it. Constant rejoicing, never a tear. God shall wipe away, Revelations 21:4, every tear. God's going to wipe them away. Constant happiness, being with others we knew on earth, a place prepared for Jesus. Remember John 14, verse 2, I go to prepare a place for you. And Jesus went to prepare that place, and that's where he is waiting for us now. Never-ending life of extreme happiness, and everyone has the opportunity. 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 9, the Lord wants every one of you, everyone that you know, to enjoy this heaven. He wants everyone to be saved. But the fact is, everyone will not. Let's talk about hell. In closing, we're going to talk about a place where many will go that are not prepared. A place that wasn't prepared actually for anyone other than Satan. And that's going to be the resting place or the end result of many. Matthew chapter 7 and Matthew 25, Jesus talks about hell. And he talks about it as being forever, without any breaks, without any size of relief. He says it's going to be something that's going to last forever. It's going to be severe, tormented, and pain. Revelations 14:11, no rest day or night. You ever hurt real bad? You ever stumped your toe and think to yourself, that thing hurts, but in a few minutes it's going to go away. Kidney stones, wow. Man, I prayed for kidney stone pain to go away, and after a couple of days it did. But I knew that it was coming. I knew relief was coming. So I had hope. But, you know, in this situation, in this place called Gehenna or hell, no relief. We can use our time today to make sure, without a doubt, that won't happen to us. And it's not hard. Jesus says in Matthew 11:30, we should not perish. John 3:16, but he said in Matthew 11:30, my burden is light. I'm not asking you for a whole lot. Be faithful. Look forward to heaven. Read and study your Bible. Worship regularly. Teach as you have opportunity. It's not a hard thing for us to do. Be baptized for the remission of your sins. Then my blood will cleanse you, and it'll cleanse you, and it'll cleanse you every day of your life. It's the greatest thing in the world. Unquenchable fire, Matthew 3:12. Unquenchable fire. Matthew 25:41. Everlasting fire, and the devil and his angels are there. Matthew 25 in verse 41. That's not the place where I want to be. The devil and his angels says, look at that for eternity and cry and moan. That's not what we need. Not being prepared is why many will be there. The story of Matthew 25, 1 through 13, you have the virgins, 5 foolish and 5 wise, and the ones that were wise were prepared when the bridegroom came. They were prepared. Are we foolish or are we wise? Prepare for the Lord. He's going to come. We have to be prepared. We can do that. And what's so wonderful about it, nobody can decide that for you. You have to decide it for yourself. We have time to make that a sure thing. We have time right now. We have time right now. And we don't want to go to God or go to judgment and stand before Jesus and say, I just didn't have enough time to do. Yes, we do. We have time right now. Do you believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God? And if you do that, then you can be saved. You follow that up with repentance. You change. We change about the way we look at life. We study our Bible daily. We look and we try to teach people, and we visit the sick, and we encourage the ones that are not strong. And we worship God with spirit and in truth. We can go to heaven, and that can happen. Is heaven as your goal? Or is it being rich? Or is it being popular? Or is it being successful in this world? If heaven is your goal, you can make it a reality. Will you confess your faith? Romans 10:10 tells us, with the heart man believeth in the righteous, with the mouth confession is made to salvation. And you can do that in a wonderful place. Will you be born again? Baptism is the new birth. John 3. Will you be born again? Born and become a person, have a soul that God does not impute sin. Romans chapter 4 and verse 7. Be that kind of person. That way you know where you'll be in 100 years without a doubt. Will you live faithfully for God? Revelations 2:10. Be thou faithful unto death, and I'll give you a crown of life. If you do that, heaven is not just a hope or a dream. It is for sure. It is reality. Salvation can be yours today. Salvation can be yours. What we do now, possibly today, because we don't know what this afternoon holds, possibly today, what we do will determine whether or not we'll spend eternity in a heaven where God is and where Jesus is and where the angels are and where all of our faithful friends and other Christians will be forever with constant rejoicing. But if we fail to do that, if we fail to obey the gospel, or if we are unfaithful and we fail to repent and get our lives back, then what we talked about earlier about the horrible side of the Hadean world, that's where we open up our eyes, because that's what happened in Luke 16. He opened up his eyes in a horrible place of pain. You want to see Abraham when you leave this world? You want to see an angel that's going to take you there, just like it did here? Believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God and obey His gospel, and that can happen. If there's anyone here that has not obeyed the gospel, we beg and we pray that you'll come. Or if you have obeyed the gospel, if there's some that just want to confess sin in your life or anything at all that we can help you today, please, we beg you to come right now as we stand and sing.